The distress beacon didn't scream. It whispered, old code, old rhythm, the kind no one used anymore. And yet every human receiver in the Kestrel reach lit up at once, as if the stars themselves had been waiting to say one sentence: wake the legend. Out beyond the mining moons of Ravelin 3, the Krath Dominion was finishing a harvest. That was what they called it when they stripped a human colony. Pull the satellites, burn the cities, crack the data vaults, and leave nothing that could rise again. Their carrier sovereign talon hung above the world like a clenched fist. Below it, oceans steamed. Cities flickered like dying coals. On the command deck of the human relay station Waypost Cinder, Commander Lena Ma stared at the colony feed until her eyes hurt. She wanted to look away. She didn't. There were only 14 people on Waypost Cinder. 2 rail cannons. 1 patched shield array. No fleet. No cavalry. Lena had sent 12 messages to Alliance Command. 12. The only reply was silence and a single automated line: hold if possible. Krath Advance Group has changed course, said Ensign Gyro Kale, voice tight. They're coming here next. 6 hours. 6 hours was generous. Lena knew how Krath moved when they smelled blood. They didn't negotiate. They didn't capture. They didn't even gloat. They erased. She swallowed. Broadcast evacuation protocols anyway, she said. Even if it's pointless. Pointless. That word had started living in her mouth. Then Gyro stiffened. Commander. I'm getting a signal. Not Krath. Not ours. It's ancient. Lena stepped to the sensor pit. The waveform on the screen looked wrong. Too clean, too confident. The encryption tag flashed a classification Lena had only seen in history archives. Archive key. Terran War era per Union. That can't be real, she whispered. The station AI tried to label the object approaching the system. It failed twice. Then it succeeded, and the name appeared like a ghost pulled from a museum. HSS Iron Promise. Lena felt her stomach drop. The Iron Promise wasn't just an old ship. It was a story that veteran pilots told rookies to scare them into training harder. It was the ship that vanished in the last minute of the First Great Interstellar War, 2 centuries ago, after ramming a dreadnought and surviving long enough to fire one final volley. It wasn't supposed to exist. A shadow slid into the system's pale starlight, massive and silent. A kilometer of dark hull. Scars sealed with older metal. Engines that burned in a deep, steady blue, like a furnace that never learned how to die. Krath are reacting, Gyro said. They've noticed it. On the Krath command network, alarms rippled. The sovereign talon pivoted. Escorts formed a ring. Weapons powered up. The Iron Promise didn't slow. It accelerated. A transmission cracked through the comms, rough, low, steady. This is Captain Imoni Reyes of the HSS Iron Promise, the voice said. To any human still breathing, get your heads up. If you can hear me, you're not alone. Lena's throat tightened. She didn't even realize she was holding her breath. Captain Reyes continued, calm as a sunrise. We slept while you fought. That ends now. The Iron Promise opened fire. Not with modern beams, not with elegant guided lances. Its weapons were brutal, physical, storm cannons that hurled magnetized slugs wrapped in plasma. The first Krath escort fractured like glass. The second detonated before its shields fully rose. The third tried to retreat, and the slug still found it, because the Iron Promise wasn't aiming where it was. It was aiming where it would be. Commander, Gyro breathed, half laughing, half sobbing. That ship is predicting them. Lena watched the ancient warship cut into the Krath formation like a blade into wet cloth. The Krath fought like machines. Their doctrine was perfect. Their formations were sacred. The Iron Promise treated their doctrine like a suggestion. It turned too sharply for its size. It used debris as cover. It faked a reactor flare to bait a torpedo lock, then vented a cloud of chaff shaped like a ship silhouette. Krath torpedoes wasted themselves on ghosts. Then the Iron Promise did something that made every human in the station gasp. It powered down. For 2 seconds, it became a dead rock. Krath targeting systems lost it. Their beams sliced empty space. Their pilots hesitated, confused, offended by a target that refused to play by the rules. The Iron Promise powered back up inside their ring, engines roaring, and unleashed a close-range barrage that turned the escort line into fire. Lena's hands shook. She knew war. She knew tactics. She had never seen art like this. A second transmission came, this time not broadcast-wide, but directed at Waypost Cinder. "Waypost Cinder, this is Reyes," the captain said. "Who's in charge?" Lena stared at the screen, then found her voice. "Commander Lena Ma." "Good," Reyes said. "Tell me what you've got. Tell me what you've lost. And tell me what you're willing to build." The last words hit Lena harder than the explosions outside. Build. Because humans didn't just fight. Humans built solutions out of scrap, hope, and stubbornness. Lena swallowed down the ache. "We're willing to build anything," she said. "If you can buy us time." Reyes answered like she'd been waiting to hear it. "Then start building. We'll buy you more than time." Outside, the Krath fleet finally did the thing no human had seen in 2 years. It broke formation. It retreated. And on Waypost Cinder, 14 exhausted humans watched the stars and felt something dangerous return to their hearts. Hope. Far across the system, in the burning orbit of Ravelin 3, Krath War Master Vorak stood on the bridge of the Sovereign Talon and stared at the tactical display, mandibles trembling with controlled rage. "One ship," he snarled. "One ancient ship does this." His advisor, a lean Krath strategist with ritual scars, spoke carefully. "It does not fight like the others. It fights like a species that has remembered something." Vorak's claws dug into metal. "Then we make them forget again." But deep in the Krath network, an old fear, something their ancestors had written into doctrine as myth, began to wake. Because the legend wasn't just back. It was watching. And it was learning what the Krath had become. Alliance Command didn't believe the reports at first. They thought Waypost Cinder had hallucinated salvation. But the battle footage was real. So was the signal, an encryption key older than most of their planets. They routed Lena Ma's call through to a war room on Terra Prime. Generals watched the Iron Promise move like a predator, and nobody spoke for a full minute. Then Admiral Soto finally exhaled. "If that ship is real," he said, "we don't just have a weapon. We have a symbol." Symbols mattered. The Krath hated them. Captain Imani Reyes didn't care about symbols. She cared about geometry, timing, and her crew's bruised hands. The Iron Promise had awakened with only 62 crew members, men and women pulled from cryo-sleep, their bodies stiff, their minds full of half-remembered alarms. The ship's AI, Milo, had kept the core alive by shutting down everything else. Half the decks were dark. 3 weapon bays were sealed by old damage. The engine coils were running at unsafe temperatures. Chief Engineer Pavel Dima stood in the engine room with grease on his cheek and a smile that looked like it belonged to someone who enjoyed impossible problems. "We can keep her alive," he told Reyes. "But not by the manual." Reyes's eyes were sharp. "Good. Manuals are for peace." They docked briefly with Waypost Cinder, not physically, but by tight beam data exchange. Lena uploaded everything, Krath patterns, supply routes, where human lines were breaking, and something else she hesitated to include. A civilian name. Selivan. Refugee. Translator. Student. Lena spoke quietly. "Captain, there's someone here you should meet." Seli wasn't human. She was a rune, a small, soft-bodied species with large eyes and delicate hands. The Krath had crushed her homeworld first, years ago. Humans rescued a few Arun ships and brought survivors into their space. Then the war came and nobody had time to be gentle. Seli stood in the corridor outside the comms bay, clutching a datapad like a shield. She looked too young to be useful in a war. Reyes studied her through the screen. "Why is a student on a relay station?" Lena hesitated, then answered honestly. "Because her school got bombed. We moved survivors where we could." Seli lifted her chin. "I'm not just a student," she said, voice trembling but clear. I read Krath doctrine. I speak their honor language. I know what scares them. Reyes leaned forward. Tell me. Selly swallowed. They fear being made ridiculous. That made Pavel laugh once, short and sharp. Of course they do. Selly continued, gaining courage. They believe war is sacred. Their formations are prayers. Their deaths are offerings. If you can make their war look foolish, if you can show their warriors dying for nothing, then you don't just kill bodies. You kill belief. Reyes stared at her as if seeing a tool nobody else had recognized. How do you know this? Selly's eyes flicked down. A human boy carried me to school every day after the shelter riots. Everyone called me weak. He didn't care. He said, weak doesn't mean worthless. He made me feel like I could matter. Lena blinked. She hadn't known that part. Reyes's voice softened, just a little. What was his name? Tom, Selly said. Tom Calder. Reyes nodded once. Then Tom Calder has already fought in this war. Selly's hands tightened on her datapad. Let me help you fight smarter. Alliance Command wanted the Iron Promise to join their largest fleet immediately. They begged Reyes to become a flagship. Reyes refused. We don't win this by stacking ships, she told Admiral Soto. We win this by changing the game. She asked for something else, access to a scrapyard, a printer foundry, and every civilian engineering Net Alliance Command still had. Admiral Soto sounded baffled. You want hobbyists? I want people who build things because they can't sleep otherwise, Reyes said. I want mechanics who make engines run on prayers. I want artists who see patterns where soldiers see walls. Humans answered. From half-broken colonies, from underground labs, from farms with tool sheds, messages poured in. I can machine parts. I can code targeting heuristics. I can print carbon lattice armor. I can fake Krath-Com signatures. I build drones for fun. Want 1,000? The Krath expected human defense to be organized, slow, predictable. They expected orders to crawl through committees. Reyes turned humanity into a swarm of ideas. Pavel Dima took civilian drone designs and twisted them into decoy birds, tiny craft that carried heat signatures and shield echoes. Selly helped them encode the decoys with Krath honor markers, so Krath sensors would prioritize them like sacred targets. Milo, the ship AI, learned to compose fear shapes in Krath radar language, patterns that matched ancient Krath nightmares. Then Reyes did the cruelest, smartest thing of all. She let the Krath hear her coming. The Iron Promise broadcast its name openly, again and again, like a drumbeat across the void. Legend ship detected. Legend ship detected. Legend ship detected. Warmaster Vorak responded exactly as Selly predicted, with rage. He moved to trap Reyes near the shattered moons of Kaltor Belt, where asteroids could limit her maneuvers. Reyes flew there on purpose. As the Krath fleet closed in, Lena Ma watched the tactical feed from Waypost Cinder and felt sick. They've got you surrounded, she whispered. Reyes answered calmly. Good. Now they can watch. The Iron Promise launched thousands of decoy birds. The asteroids lit up with false targets. Krath beams carved into stone. Torpedoes hunted ghosts. And while the Krath burned their sacred ammunition on illusions, Pavel's hacked slugs, printed in civilian factories and blessed by desperation, slipped into the gaps and punched through Krath engines. The Krath ships didn't just explode. They spun, helpless, colliding with asteroids like clumsy giants. Selly's voice came through to Lena. Do you see it? They look stupid. It was awful. It was beautiful. It worked. Warmaster Vorak watched his fleet stumble, and something inside him cracked, not fear of death, but fear of disgrace. He transmitted a single command, furious and urgent. Bring me the human girl. Because if belief was the battlefield, then the Krath would try to shatter the one voice that understood it. The Krath stopped hunting the Iron Promise. They started hunting people. They raided refugee convoys, not for supplies, but for names. They hacked civilian networks. They demanded lists of translators and cultural analysts. Their war priests spoke of a small mouth that poisoned their honor. Selivan became a target. Reyes responded by doing what humans always did when cornered. She got creative. She moved the Iron Promise to a dead system with no planets, only a pale sun and a ring of frozen debris. It looked worthless. It looked safe. Then she asked Pavel Dima to do something insane. "Can you make the ship look like it's dying?" she asked. Pavel rubbed his hands together like a man asked to cook a favorite meal. "Captain, I can make it look like it's already dead." Milo dimmed the engine output. The ship vented coolant in a slow, dramatic plume. It broadcast a weak distress chirp, human, panicked, badly encrypted. To the Krath, it looked like the legend had finally bled out. Warmaster Vorak arrived with a hunting force 3 times larger than before. He wanted a public execution. He wanted the galaxy to watch the legend fall. As Krath warships closed in, Selly stood beside Reyes on the bridge. Her fingers shook, but her eyes were steady. "They will try to kill you in a way that feels holy," she said. Reyes nodded. "Then we'll ruin the ceremony." The Krath opened with a ritual barrage, synchronized beams, timed like a hymn. The Iron Promise didn't raise shields. It drifted. It took the first hit and let armor peel away in glittering flakes. It looked helpless. Vorak's voice thundered over open comms. "Human devil ship. Your time ends." Reyes leaned toward the MIC. "You came all this way," she said. "For a corpse." Then she smiled. "Pavel." The engineer's voice crackled back. "Now." The Iron Promise shed its outer hull panels packed with reflective foil and heat bloomers. Suddenly, the space around it became a mirror maze. Krath sensors screamed with impossible returns. At the same time, thousands of decoy birds ignited, each broadcasting the Iron Promise's signature. In the confusion, Milo released the real weapon. Not a missile. Not a beam. A net. Humans had built it from mining tech, gravitic tethers used to haul asteroids. They fired it like a web across space, anchoring it to frozen debris and turning the battlefield into a trap of invisible lines. Krath ships surged forward, hungry to strike the real target. They hit the tethers. Ships that weighed millions of tons jerked sideways. Formations shattered. Ritual timing collapsed. Their synchronized hymn became a scream. Then Reyes powered the engines back to full. The Iron Promise became a comet. It threaded through the chaos, firing only when it was close enough to be certain. It targeted engines, commerays, command spines, places that made ships blind, deaf, and ashamed. Selly watched, breathing hard. "They can't perform," she whispered. "They can't be sacred if they're tangled." Vorak raged. He ordered his fleet to cut the tethers, but cutting them made things worse. Tether fragments whipped like angry snakes, slicing hulls. Humans didn't beat the Krath with bigger guns. They beat them with a prank that obeyed physics. Still, the Krath adapted fast. One of Vorak's elite ships, sleek, brutal, broke free and lunged directly for the Iron Promise's bridge. "Impact in 30 seconds, shouted a tactical officer. Reyes didn't flinch. "Brace. And open the hangar." Selly stared. "Open the hangar. In battle." Reyes's eyes glittered. Humans invented the worst idea in the universe. The hangar doors yawned, and a swarm of tiny craft poured out, civilian racing pods, retrofitted with spike charges and paint-bright panels. Paint. Actual paint. Selly blinked. "Are those colors?" Pavel's laughter was wild. "Every ship in that swarm is broadcasting the Krath symbol for coward." The racing pods slammed into the elite Krath ship, not to destroy it, just to stick. Charges detonated, releasing expanding foam and fluorescent pigment across the hull. The Krath ship didn't die. It became a glowing, floating insult. Krath comms erupted with shocked outrage. Their own crews recoiled. Because in their culture, being marked was worse than being wounded. The elite ship faltered, hesitated, just long enough for the Iron Promise to punch a slug through its drive core. It exploded in a burst of colored fire. For the first time, Vorik sounded uncertain. What are you? Reyes answered in simple words that carried centuries of stubbornness. We are the species that survives, she said. Even when we have to invent new ways to be hated. The trap consumed Vorik's hunting force. Survivors fled. The galaxy watched the footage spread like wildfire. Krath warships tangled, painted, spinning, breaking their sacred formations. And across human space, people who had been hiding in silence began to stand up. Factories reopened. Shipyards lit up. Civilians volunteered. Not because they thought they were safe. Because they finally believed the Krath could be beaten. But the Krath learned something too. If they couldn't kill the legend with force, they would kill it with a hostage. And Selivan, small, brave, and suddenly famous, was exactly the kind of leverage they wanted. The abduction happened fast. A supply shuttle carrying medkits and printer filament to Waypost Cinder took a shortcut through a shadow corridor. Their nav beacons blinked once, then went silent. Inside that shuttle was Selly. Reyes received the news with a stillness that scared her crew more than yelling ever could. She walked to the observation deck and stared at the empty stars, jaw tight. Lena Mar's voice came through, broken. It's my fault. I approved the route. Reyes didn't blame her. She blamed the universe that punished kindness. Pavel Dima slammed a wrench into a bulkhead. We go in. We burn them. Selly's datapad had one last ping before it died, one packet of audio, clipped and shaky. A Krath priest speaking, we will unmake your symbol. And Selly, whispering, don't come for me, unless you can win. Reyes turned back to her crew. We will win, she said simply. And we will bring her home. Alliance Command begged her to wait for reinforcements. Reyes refused again. We don't have time for slow, she said. We have time for clever. She studied Krath culture with Selly's saved notes. She found the crack in their armor, public honor. The Krath Dominion wasn't just an empire. It was a theater. Their leaders ruled because they looked blessed by war. So Reyes decided to attack the Dominion's most protected place. Not a shipyard. Not a fortress. A ceremony. Warmaster Vorik announced Selly's unmaking would happen above Meridian Ash, a conquered world turned into a shrine. He invited Dominion captains to watch. He broadcast the event openly. He wanted to break human hope on a stage. Reyes gave him a bigger stage. She sent a message across every channel. Human, neutral, even Krath. Attend if you want to see what humans do when you steal our children. Then she did something that made no military advisor comfortable. She asked civilians to help write the battle plan. Not generals. Not admirals. Civilians. A mathematician from a farming colony proposed a flight path through Meridian's debris field using gravitational slingshotting. A street magician suggested misdirection tactics, how to make eyes look left while the hand moves right. A school teacher suggested a simple truth: if they expect a rescue, don't do a rescue. Do a lesson. Reyes built a lesson. When the day came, Vorik's ceremony platform hovered in orbit. Selly stood in restraints, bruised but upright. Krath priests chanted. Dominion officers watched in silence. Vorik raised his claws. Observe, he declared. This is how hope dies. The space around them flickered. The Iron Promise appeared, just for a second, then vanished, like a ghost caught on camera. Krath guns fired at empty space. Priests faltered mid-chant. Then the Iron Promise appeared again, closer, broadcasting music. Not an anthem. A simple human recording. Children laughing. It echoed across open comms. Neutral observers froze. Even some Krath hesitated, confused by sound that didn't fit war. Vorik snarled. Kill it. But the Iron Promise wasn't there to be killed. Milo had projected false images using decoy birds and reflective panels, creating a moving illusion of the ship in dozens of places at once. Meanwhile, the real attack came from something the Krath didn't respect. A swarm of tiny cargo drones, civilian models, drifted into orbit days earlier, hidden among trash and ice. They looked harmless. They were loaded with printed parts and one human invention that changed everything. A universal connector. Pavel Dima had built a device that could latch onto craft tech ports and speak in their machine language, because humans were the species that learned by taking things apart. The drones latched onto the ceremony platform stabilizers and injected a simple command. Rotate. The entire platform began to spin, not fast enough to kill anyone, but fast enough to ruin the sacred posture of the priests and send proud officers stumbling. The chant turned into chaos. Vorik screamed in rage. Celi's restraints unlocked. Because the drones had also injected a second command. Open. Celi stumbled forward, free, and a human boarding pod, painted bright, stupid, joyful yellow, shot out of a debris shadow and slammed into the platform. A human team burst out, not in perfect formation, but in a messy wave of determination. They didn't shoot first. They ran to Celi. One soldier, helmet off, was a young man with tired eyes. Tom. Celi whispered, disbelief shaking her voice. Tom Calder swallowed hard. Told you, he said. Weak doesn't mean worthless. The moment hit like a punch. Then the shooting started. Krath guards surged. Humans fought like humans, grabbing railings, throwing tools, using foam, using smoke, using anything. Reyes didn't aim to destroy the entire Dominion fleet. She aimed to destroy something else. Vorik's image. The Iron Promise finally revealed itself, dropping out of stealth right above the ceremony, engines roaring like thunder. It broadcast Vorik's panicked orders across every public channel, translated into plain language by Celi's own voice, pre-recorded, calm, fearless. Listen, her recorded voice said. This is what fear sounds like. Krath captains heard their war master begging for control. Neutral worlds heard it too. Dominion officers watched their sacred event collapse into a spinning mess. Vorik lunged toward Celi, claws raised. Tom stepped between them. He didn't have time to raise a rifle. So he did the most human thing possible. He grabbed a ceremonial banner pole and tripped the War Master. Vorik fell. The galaxy saw their holy leader fall. Reyes's voice rang across comms, quiet and sharp. Your war is a costume, she told Vorik. And you just tore it. The Dominion fleet wavered. A few ships fired anyway. Many didn't. Because belief, once cracked, spreads. And the Krath Dominion had just cracked in front of the entire galaxy. After Meridian Ash, the war didn't end in one explosion. It ended the way human things often end. In a chain reaction of decisions. Krath captains began refusing suicidal charges. Some claimed engine faults. Others blamed bad omens. The Dominion's priests tried to restore order, but their words sounded thinner now. Their sacred war had been made ridiculous, and ridicule was contagious. Meanwhile, human space changed shape. Not through one central command, but through millions of small hands. A colony of artists designed heat signature camouflage that looked like space dust. A group of kids coded a simple targeting aid that helped old defense cannons track fast ships. Mechanics built tether traps like the one Reyes used, then improved them. Farmers melted down equipment to print armor plates. Humans didn't just copy the Iron Promise. They copied the mindset. Captain Reyes met with Alliance Command at last, not in a grand hall, but in a workshop aboard the ship, surrounded by tools and half-built ideas. Admiral Soto looked at the scattered parts and shook his head. This is chaos. Reyes handed him a wrench. It's humanity. Celi, now recovered, stood beside Tom Calder. She wasn't trembling anymore. She spoke to the Council of Leaders in simple English that everyone could understand. The Krath are strong, she said. But they are trapped inside one story, honor through conquest. Humans have many stories. We can change. We can learn. We can build new tools, new friendships, new answers. She paused, then added softly, and humans protect small people. That matters. The next campaign wasn't a straight push into Krath space. Reyes refused that too. Instead, she proposed something bold. Don't invade them, she said. Outgrow them. Humans began liberating worlds not just with fleets, but with support, food printers, emergency shields, evacuation corridors, and propaganda that wasn't hate, but truth. The Krath can bleed. The Krath can be tricked. The Krath can be laughed at. And you don't have to kneel. Some alien species joined the humans, not because humans were the strongest, but because humans were the most stubborn about giving others a chance to stand. Warmaster Vorik survived Meridian Ash, but he was no longer a god. He became a desperate animal. He gathered loyalists and chased the Iron Promise into the dead zone near the Black Fold, a region where sensors failed and gravity twisted like a bad dream. He believed he could finally kill the legend where nobody could witness his shame. Reyes followed him willingly, because humans didn't just want to survive. They wanted to teach. In the Black Fold, Krath ships appeared and disappeared in strange light. They fired blind. They trusted instinct and ritual. Reyes trusted curiosity. Pavel Dima had spent weeks listening to the Fold's gravity music. He built a model using string, beads, and an old coffee mug, then translated it into engine timing. "It's like surfing," he told Reyes. "Ride the wave, don't fight it." The Iron Promise rode it. The ship slipped through the Fold like it belonged there, while Krath vessels slammed into invisible gravity wells, tearing themselves apart. Vorik's flagship, scarred, furious, finally cornered Reyes near a twisting ribbon of dark matter. He opened comms, voice raw. "You humiliate US." Reyes answered, tired but unbroken. "No," she said. "You did that yourself. We just stopped pretending you were unbeatable." Vorik charged. Reyes didn't run. She fired the tether net one last time, anchoring it to the Fold's gravity ribbon. Then she did something that made Pavel swear. She cut the ship's engines. The Iron Promise drifted, and the gravity ribbon grabbed it like a current. Vorik followed, hungry, and the current pulled him too. The two ships spiraled toward a gravity knot that would crush them both. Lena Ma, watching from a relay far away, cried out, "Reyes! Pull away!" Reyes's hands were steady. Not yet. At the last possible second, Pavel triggered the emergency coils, dumping stored energy into a single pulse that shoved the Iron Promise sideways out of the knot. Vorik's flagship wasn't so lucky. It hit the gravity knot and folded inward, metal screaming, lights collapsing into a silent point. Warmaster Vorik vanished, not with a glorious death, but with a quiet one. The galaxy watched the aftermath and felt the war's spine break. In the months that followed, Krath Dominion worlds began declaring autonomy. Some surrendered. Some negotiated. Some simply stopped fighting because nobody wanted to die for a story that had lost its magic. The Iron Promise became more than a weapon. It became a reminder that humans were dangerous in a way no empire could fully predict. They were willing to look at hopeless odds and ask, what if we try something weird? On a rebuilt school on Waypost Cinder, Selly stood at the entrance on opening day. Tom held the door. Lena Ma watched kids run past with backpacks and laughter. Captain Reyes didn't attend the ceremony. She sent a recorded message instead, simple and human. "Keep building," she said. "Keep learning. Legends aren't ships. Legends are choices." And somewhere deep in the Iron Promise, Milo logged a new entry. Status: humanity, active, adapting, unbroken. The stars had tried to bury the human spirit under fire. Humans responded the only way they knew how. They built a ladder out of scrap and climbed back into the sky.